Ready, Mal? Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Supermac.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here, Malcolm. And let's start at the beginning. How did the transfer come about for you to land at St James's Park?
Right, I was in my second season at Luton. We were playing in the second division. Well, actually, let me take you back to the previous year when I first joined Luton Town. Alex Stock was the manager, bought me for £17,500, which was a fortune to Luton Town at the time. And from him, I learned one of the greatest lessons that I've ever learned, be it football or life. And quite simply, it came on the Friday before the first game of the season. We were due to play real big time stuff at Luton Town, it was, and we were due to play Barrow. Yeah, they should cart them away in one. And nobody was fully sure whether they were going to be in the first team for this opening fixture or not. And I was just 19 at the time. And the team sheet came down and the coach pinned it up and everybody crowded round it. And I was sort of at the back and couldn't really see it. And I could just see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but I couldn't see any lower. And people had a good look and then started moving away. And so I was able to get a bit nearer, and I saw I wasn't 6, I wasn't 7, I wasn't 8, and I wasn't 9. I thought, oh, I've had it. And just stretched up a little and had a look. No, 10, McDonald. I was in the side. So great, starting the season. And it was then that Alex Stock, the manager, walked in. And he had a real military bearing. He'd been a tank commander in the Second World War. And also, you'll love this man, because he was the player manager who also scored when Yeovil beat Sunderland 2-1. I knew you'd love him. And so, Coach Jimmy Andrews, before Alex Stock came down, had got us organised, and we had to, and it was all military fashion. And so and it was a 3-sided bench that went around 3 walls. And on one side, it was the goalkeeper, 1, right back, left back, right half, centre half, and it was all numerical, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way round. And I'm sitting, and I've got the outside left to one side, centre forward next to me on the other. And Alex Stock came in, and he said, well, here we are at the start of a new season, and the good people of Luton are going to be coming in their droves tomorrow to watch you lot play. So the least you can do for them, in return for all this loyal support that they're going to give you this season, is get promoted. What do you say? Now, let me tell you at this point, no manager talks about promotion at the beginning of the season. It's taboo. Alex Stock didn't give a damn. He just hit the nail smack on the head. Let's go for it. And he said, the least you can do is get them some promotion. What do you say? And we all sort of dutifully nodded our heads. And Alex Stock said, good, I'm pleased you all agree, because now I'm going to tell you how to do it. He said, we have 46 games to play in this third division season. And of those 46, he said, you cannot afford to lose any more than 9. After that, the wins and the draws will look after themselves. But you can't afford to lose any more than 9. He said, now, how are you going to achieve that? Well, at the back, he said, you, in 46 games, cannot concede more than 34 goals. He said, and at the other end, he said, and how you do that, he said, Coach Jimmy Andrews will be working with you defenders every day on the training ground to make sure that we achieve that. And at the other end, you have to score a minimum of 82. He said, now, I can tell you where that's coming from. He said, goalkeeper Tony Reid, I don't expect you to score any goals, but I do expect you to save at least 3 penalties. Tell him I'm busy. Right back, John Ryan. You love an overlap, and I've got you down for 5. Jack Bannister, left back. You poo your pants every time you cross the halfway line, but nevertheless, I've got you down for 3. Mike Keane, right half, skipper. You love a free kick. I've got you down for 10. And he continued to the 5 and the 6 and the 7, giving them all a total of goals that they had to score through the season. He came to the 9 next to me, an old hand in the game. Laurie Sheffield. And Alex Stockers looked at him and he said, Laurie Sheffield, well, old son, you've been about a bit. You've had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus. But at least you can still run a bit, you can still jump a bit. And I've got you down for 18. And he's just averted from Laurie to me. He's gone, McDonald, the new boy, 30. And went straight on to the outside left. I nudged Laurie in the ribs and I said, Laurie, did I hear him right? Did he say 30? He said, oh, you heard him all right, boyo, and bloody good luck to you. I didn't hear the rest of the team meeting. I'm just thinking, 30 goals in 46 games? Is he mad? How am I going to get all those from, for heaven's sake? I've only played 6 league games. And that was for Fulham, and we got relegated. Bloody hell. And the next day, after, a bit of a sleepless night, the next day I've got into the ground and I've got myself changed and out we've gone. And we have beaten Barrow 3-0. I have made 2 goals and haven't scored, and I'm in this fit of depression. In the corner, I'm thinking, bloody hell. I've still got to score 30 goals, and I've only got 45 games in which to get them now. That's a goal every 1.5 games. Who scores a goal every 1.5 games? Bloody hell. And the players could see that I was getting under some real pressure, and they worked well with me in training. And we went down to Bournemouth the next week, and it was 0-0 at half-time. And midway through the second half, Mike Keane, the skipper, has knocked a great ball just between the 2 centre-halves, and away I've gone, and I'm careering through the Bournemouth half, and the keeper's come out. I've gone round him, and I side-footed it into the net. The sigh of relief was one of the loudest things I heard in Bournemouth that year. Oh, I was off that dreaded bloody 30 figure. And it just felt like skiing downhill from here. Wow, it was great. And the players were terrific in training. They were helping me all the while, and the goals were going in. And we got to the last game of the season. All we needed was a draw at Mansfield to get promotion. No matter what any of the other teams did, as far as their results were concerned, if we got a draw, we were promoted. And so we played 10 at the back and just booted the ball out the ground at least 15 times. And we made sure that Mansfield didn't score. And as long as that happened, we were promoted. And so we've gone into the dressing room, and the directors of Luton Town, in their great generosity, sent all of us down 2 bottles of champagne. And so I went and got 2 plastic cups, and I've put some champagne in each, and I've gone over to Alex Stock and I've given him one of the cups. And I said, well, there you are, Alex, boss. I said, congratulations. I said, you told us that we could get promotion, and that's exactly what we've done. I said, but I've got an apology to make. He said, what's that, old son? I said, well, you gave me a figure of 30 goals that I had to score. And I'm sorry to say, but I only got 29. He said, well, you see, old son, you know, there are those who, given a target, can go over and above. There are those clever enough to hit it smack on. And then there are people like you. So don't forget, old son, next season you owe me one. The start of next season, he had us all numerically in the dressing room for the first team talk. This time, we only had 42 games in the 2nd division. It was a smaller division. And a lot of new faces. And he's gone all around giving everybody their target for the season. And now, this time I'm number 9. And he said, McDonald, the not so new boy, 30. Oh, and don't forget, you owe me one from last season. So I had to get 31 goals. And we were going really well until we got to Easter, and then calamity struck and we lost 2 games in a row. And that was on the Friday and the Saturday of Easter, and we still had another game to play on the Monday, and we were in for light training on the Sunday. And after the training, I was heading towards the dressing room, and Alex Stock came down the tunnel, and he said, follow me, old son, follow me. And he's traipsed me out to the centre circle in Kenilworth Road, empty stadium, and he's looking over his shoulders to make sure he's not going to be overheard. And he said, well, old son, promotion's out the window. He said, a small little club like Luton Town, we're always hard up. And so if we don't get promotion, it means that we have to sell our most expensive asset. And right now, old son, that's you. So you're on your bike. You'll be going to the big league come the end of the season. He said, and I can tell you now, there are 3 clubs interested in you. He said, there's Man United, there's Chelsea, and there's Newcastle United. Now, all you've got to do is just keep sticking it in the old onion bag, and they'll come desperate for you. So I kept sticking it in the old onion bag. And we got to the last game of the season. We were playing Cardiff at home, and we had to beat them by 2 clear goals to go into the Watney Cup instead of them. And Watney Cup was big time for Luton. And so I scored 1. I scored 2. And then later in the second half, I got a 3rd. So I knew it's my last game at Kenilworth Road, and I happened to score a hat-trick. And I thought, well, there's nothing like going out in a bit of style, is there? So I'm in the dressing room afterwards, no champagne there this time. And I got 2 cups of tea, and I went over and I handed one to Alex Stock. And I said, well, boss, I said, the first one I scored tonight, I said, that was my 30th of the season that you had asked for. I said, my second tonight, that was the one I owed you from last season. I said, and the third one tonight, I said, well, you can have that one for luck. He said, you'll be needing some bloody luck where you're going, mate. He said, come and see me on Friday. I'm going to have some news for you. So I went in and saw him on the Friday, and he had come back and was perspiring and was all a bit nervy. And he said, I've just come back from the Great Northern Hotel by King's Cross Station. He said, and I've spoken with Joe Harvey and the Newcastle United board, and we have agreed the deal. He said, and it's £185,000. And he said, if I were you, I'd get in your car, get down there as soon as you can and sting them for every bloody penny you can get. I said, I'm on my way. I've gone down the M1, got to King's Cross Station, and got into the hotel. I've asked the reception, where could I find the Newcastle party? She said, go down that corridor, they're in the lounge at the end. And as I'm going down, the door at the far end has opened, and the door frame was filled with this big pair of shoulders, and I recognised Joe Harvey from his playing days. And he's walked towards me, and I've gone, hello, Mr. Harvey. I'm Malcolm McDonald. Alex, the Luton manager, has asked me to come and speak with you. He said, so you're the little bugger who's just cost me another 30 grand. He said, back at Easter, we had the deal all agreed with your club Luton, he said, at £155,000. He said, you go and score a bloody hat-trick in your last game. He said, and your manager's here this morning putting the fee up 10 grand a goal. Well, he didn't complain about the next hat-trick I scored, which happened to be in my home debut. So which tomorrow is the 50th anniversary of that game.
Wow. Mal, before we get to that home debut, let's just talk about your first visit to St James's Park and about a very, very special man who you met that day.
Right, well, at the Great Northern Hotel, I signed the contract, but the deal is never done there, just on that. And in those days, you had to have a medical, but it had to be performed in the medical room of the buying club. So I on Monday morning had to go up to St James Park and have the medical done. And so when I got back from the Great Northern Hotel to Luton Football Club, I told the manager what had happened, and he said, good old son. He said, so you're off up there on Monday. He said, well, I've got a lovely surprise for you. He said, our sponsor, George Twigg, he said, he's lending you his personal Rolls Royce. He said, and one of his young directors is going to drive you. So get up there and, like I said, sting him for every penny you can get. So on the Monday, at about 6 o'clock, I've met the young director, and I've got into the passenger seat of the Rolls Royce, and up we've gone up the M1 and the A1, and we've come over one of the bridges, and we can see the ground up the hill. And so he said, get in the back. So out I got in the back, and he's put a chauffeur's helmet on, chauffeur's hat, and he's driven up the boulevard and then along and in through the main gate. And then he has done this huge circle, and there's all the press all lined up at the top of the steps, all waiting, and he's slowly come to a stop right in front of them, and he said, sit where you are. And he's got out, walked a long way around the car, got to my door, and he's opened it, and out I've come. As I've stepped out the car, a voice in the middle of this pack of press guys on the steps leading to the main entrance has gone, "It's the first bloody time I've ever seen a player actually arrive in his signing on fee." It was Bob Cass, who at the time was writing for the Sun newspaper. Funny man, he really was. But anyway, I've gone into the ground, into the treatment room, the medical room, and I'd never missed a game through injury up to then. And so I flew through the medical, no problems at all. And then did a press conference in the press room. And then at the end of it, the journalists, they like to come and just sort of ask one question that's individual to them, so that not everybody's writing the same bump. So I was chatting away with all of them, and then all of a sudden, it was in reverence. You could tell that they just hushed, and they just parted. And a fella, smartly, casually dressed, came through, and he said, "Hello, Malcolm. Welcome to Newcastle United. Welcome to Tyneside." He said, "You're going to love it here." He said, "But more important, the people of Newcastle are going to enjoy it as much as you." He said, "By the way, my name's Jackie Milburn." And I knew exactly who he was. I had seen him score against my beloved Fulham on numerous occasions, and boy, was he quick. And so he said, right. He said, just to change things, change the conversation. He said, "What you need to do," he said, is get yourself settled up here as quickly as you can." He said, and so when you're around, he said, "and I'll take you about and I'll show you the place." And I said, "Well, I'm coming back up on Friday. I was going to do some house hunting." He said, "Good." He said, "I'll see you here 10 o'clock. So I drove up early on the Friday morning, and I parked my car, and there was Jackie. He said, "Right, in you get." So I've got into his car, and we've driven out, and he's and he started showing me the different areas that made up Newcastle and what have you, and we sort of drove through Fenham and then across the town moor, and then into Jesmond and down Osborne Road, showing me all of that. And we've been to Gosforth as well, and we came down to the coast road, and Jackie was brilliant, and he's pointing it all out and what are the really nice areas and what have you. And then we've got on the coast road, and we've started driving along, and all of a sudden he put his foot down and he said, "That's Wall's End." and after a while we slowed down and we went through North Shields and around through Tynemouth, and we went up the coast road and through Whitley Bay, and we went through Seaton Sluice, and he then went on a detour and went right around Blythe, and on the far side we got onto the Ashington Road, and as we were driving along, all of a sudden his arm flashed out literally under my nose, and he was pointing out the passenger window, and he said, "All right, you soft southerner, what's that?" And I've looked, and it's like this football pylon thing, but instead of lights at the top, there's a wheel. And I'm looking at it, and I thought, I'm under pressure here. So I hope I get this right. I said, "Jackie," I said, I'm not absolutely sure, but I've got a feeling It's called a pit wheel. He said, "Oh, you're not such a soft southerner after all." He said, "But that's not any old pit wheel." He said, "That's the pit wheel that lowered me down when I was a young teenager." He said, "I just left school." He said, and I went down that pit. He said, and still, he said, all my family are down there. All my friends, they're still working down there. He said, but he said, God was good to me. He gave me ability to play football, and he gave me the will to play it. And so he said, I was very fortunate in as much that Newcastle took me out of the pit, and I had a marvellous football career. He said, I played for England, scored a lot of goals, I managed. And he said, now I'm a reporter writing about football matches. He said, what can be better? And he said, but he said, I want to tell you of something that is dear and close to my heart, he said. He said, all the people that are working down there, what you have to remember is that they're grafting away Monday to Friday. They don't see the sunshine. And on a Friday, they will clean all the coal dust off them. And on the Saturday morning, they'll get on the bus and they'll go into the centre of Newcastle. They'll go and have a pint or two. He said, and then they make their way to the ground. He said, and by 2:00, they're in there on the terraces. He said, and they are creating the most fabulous atmosphere you'll ever experience. He said, and that noise will be building and building to a crescendo, so that at 5 to 3, when you walk down the tunnel and you walk out onto the pitch, they will let you know just what they feel about you. He said, when that whistle blows and that match starts, he said, you've got to really put it in for all of those people who are cheering you on. He said, and your job is to score goals. He said, so every time you get the ball, run at the centre halves, go at them. He said, and when you've beaten them, he said, rain shots on the goal. He said, force the keeper to make save after save. He said, you'll hit the woodwork, you'll miss by a few inches. But he said, sooner or later, the goals will start going in, and you have to keep those goals going on a regular basis. He said, because they have such a huge appetite for goal scoring and goal scorers. There you are, he said, it's as simple as that. Good luck. Well, it's not quite as simple as that, but I knew what Jackie was talking about. And bless him, he's no longer here with us, but he gave me a wonderful insight as to what Newcastle and Tyneside is all about, and to the people of the area. And he couldn't have been kinder and more lovely. And he was one hell of a guy.
It's a story I never get sick of. Give him a round of applause for that. Okay, so 50 years tomorrow. Tell us about that home debut, Malcolm. I'm sure. Let's have a show of hands. Who was there?
Oh. You old bastards.
Okay, Malcolm, tell us about it from your side.
So, we had played 2 away games, and the first one was awful. We got beat by Crystal Palace. The second one was much better, and we drew at White Hart Lane 0-0 against Tottenham. And so on the Saturday, we are playing Liverpool, and the top 3 sides in the country were Leeds United, Arsenal, and Liverpool at that time. And so I was asked by Bob Moncur. He said it's a bit unusual. He said, I've got a book just come out, written by John Gibson, and he said, and we're both going to go to Waterstones for a signing session. He said there's going to be hundreds of supporters there. He said they'll all be on their way to the game. He said, and they'll be popping into Waterstones to get the book. And so, would you mind coming along and doing a signing session with me? And I thought, what, on a match day? Oh, to hell. So I said, yeah, of course I'll come, Bob. And so joining Bob and I was David Craig and Frank Clark. And so we arrived at Waterstones at the top of Grey Street. There was a crowd coming out of the shop going about 200 yards down the road. It was amazing. So we sat all morning signing these books until everybody had got what they wanted. And we nipped off somewhere to have a light lunch. And then we were heading up to the ground. And of course, what this did for me was, coming from Luton, because, when you think that the stadium holds 50-odd thousand, there was only about half of that lived in the whole of Luton. To have to be playing in front of a crowd of 50,000, it is absolutely amazing. Anyway, but I'm getting the feel of it because we're from the restaurant that we had a light lunch in. We're walking up to the ground. And supporters are chatting to us, and we're chatting to supporters, and they're wishing us well, and what have you, signing autographs and what have you. And so we got to the ground, in we went, got into the dressing room, and we started to seriously prepare ourselves for the match. And we went out. And one of the most amazing memories that I have of my career is going down the tunnel, because there's steps halfway down. You go, and as I was getting nearer and nearer to the mouth of the tunnel, the noise was just getting louder and louder and louder. And so Bob Moncurs led us out onto the pitch, and the roar, honestly, I've never heard anything like it. Well, you don't get it playing at Rochdale, do you? In all fairness. And I thought, wow, now that can frighten the life out of some players. I've seen it happen. Not for me. I thought, yeah, this is where I really want to play and succeed. And so the game started, and Emlyn Hughes cracked a hell of a shot from outside the penalty area, and that put Liverpool 1-0 up. And about midway in the first half, a lad called David Young, his claim to fame was that he was the substitute for Sunderland in the 73 Cup final against Leeds United. But he was actually playing in the team. He only played a few games, but he started this particular season playing in midfield. And he went into the box and got us a penalty. Who took him down? Kevin Keegan, you're right. Kevin Keegan. So thanks, Kevin. Here's my first goal. And put the ball down and popped it into the top corner. Thank you very much. It's now 1 each. And with a few minutes still to go to half time, Terry Hibbett, who had signed a bit beyond me. Oh, and I must tell you that Joe Harvey came into the dressing room during pre-season training, and he had this habit, did Joe, of hands in his pockets, and when he had information to give, what he would do, he would stand in front of somebody and he would just rock back and forth on his heels. And he's rocking on his heels in front of me. As I'm sat there. I said, well, Big Mal, I have just signed the man who is going to make the bullets for you to fire. Isn't that a great line? And we've all gone, who is it, boss? Who is it? Who have you signed? Who is it? And he started walking towards the door. And he said, I've just signed Terry Hibbett from Leeds United for a paltry 30 grand. We all went, wow, sensational. What a player. And he's walked to the door and he's halfway out and he's just popped his head back in. He's gone, mind, he caused trouble in an empty house. And he disappeared, and boy, he wasn't kidding. Dear me. Oh, Terry Hibbett could cause a fight with himself, I tell you. And here he was, and we got to know when he joined us for training. Honestly, it was just yap, and he just didn't shut up. But with a few minutes from half time, one each, and he has got the ball on his left peg, and I've made just a little run across Larry Lloyd, and Hibby has side-footed the ball in such a way that it's gone just beyond and round Larry Lloyd, and I've skipped over his leg, and I've gone, and as soon as I've got past him, I've smacked it right into the far top corner. And that made it 2-1. What a ball from Hibby. It was beautiful. And so I've gone celebrating at the Gallagate end. I've gone off towards the corner flag. And the players have all run down and they're all congratulating me. And then we start to wander back towards the halfway line so that we can get the game restarted. And as we start walking back, something quite amazing happened. That the cheering stopped, singing started. And the hit musical at the time in London was Jesus Christ Superstar. And what I was hearing being sung was, Supermac, Superstar, how many goals have you scored so far? All to the tune of the title song. And I thought, everybody's singing the words around the whole stadium. Now, I have been looking for the rest of my life, for all 50 years of it, for the fellow who handed out the song sheets. Anyway, so half time's come and gone, and out we go for the second half. And again, Terry Hibbett, he's got the ball on the left-hand side, about 10 yards outside of our penalty area, and he's just started motoring. And he found himself in a lot of space, and he's gone into the Liverpool half and carried on. And as he's running, he's just looked up. John Tudor has made a little run, and I'm sort of to the far side of John. And Terry Hibbett has played a fabulous ball into John Tudor. And John, I never thought that he got the full recognition that sometimes he deserved. But he had a lovely touch at times, really. Seriously, lovely touch. And on this particular occasion, as the ball's come to him, he's holding off the defender who's trying to get his leg round. John has just lifted the ball so gently over the defender's leg. And he's just dropped it right in my path. I took 2 strides, smacked it in the far corner. Thank you very much indeed. I've just scored a hat-trick against Liverpool. Just knocked 3 goals against Ray Clements. Now, Ray Clements wasn't a man to take that lying down. Now, he was one of the sweetest kickers of a ball that I've ever seen. But on this particular occasion, he had a goal kick and he duffed it. And it just went bobbling and bouncing. And I was in the centre circle in the Liverpool half. It came bobbling past Larry Lloyd. And I've gone to control it. It was bobbling about so much, it sort of come off my shin. And it's gone up and over Larry Lloyd. And I've started running. And I'm going like crazy. I'm past Larry Lloyd. And all I've got is Ray Clements in front of me. And he's starting to come off his line. And the ball is coming down, down, down. And I'm looking, ball, Ray Clements. He's hurtling out. And I thought, I can't wait for it to bounce. So I've leapt up and I've just lobbed the ball back up in the air and over Ray Clements. And I've landed and I'm watching the ball, and it's just gone a foot past the bar and then hit the roof of the net outside of the goal. And that's when Ray Clements put his boot in my face at about 20 miles an hour. I've for the rest of my life, I'm having a shave on the inside of my mouth. And I thought, make a note in your diary. Think twice about scoring hat-tricks against Ray Clements. And I had to be carried off. But they brought a stretcher on. I said, I'm not going on a stretcher. I will not go on a stretcher. And I was semi-conscious. And so Alec Much, the physio, and Keith Birkinshaw, the coach, they helped me off the pitch and got me up onto one of the treatment beds in the medical room. And boom, I went out. I'd gone. I was unconscious. And I came to. Now, I have a habit of sometimes before a match of going in and just lying on those beds and having 10 minutes kip, where all the others are all hyper. I used to be really calm and quite ice cold pre-match, and I'd go and have a sleep for 10 minutes, and so I've come to, and there's Frank Clark at the end of the bed, and I've gone, Frank, is it time to go out? I said, I've just had a weird old dream. I've just dreamt I'd scored a hat-trick against Liverpool, got 3, would you believe? He said, you did, buddy lad. he said, it wasn't a dream, I can assure you. And so, yes, that was the start of a feud with Liverpool Football Club. It was interesting times, I have to say. They got their own back on me at Anfield later that season. I challenged Ray Clements, who went bosh with his elbow on one side, and Ray Clements, Tommy Smith then waded in and gave me a right-hander. Oh, dear me. And so I'm poleaxed on the ground, and the referees come up and booked me. Oh, well.
Great stuff, great memories. 50 years tomorrow, and that brings us to the end of the first half. Put your hands together for Supermac.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a 45-minute break. Pie and Peas is coming out. We'll do the second raffle. We've got a Newcastle United shirt from Malcolm's era, which we're going to get signed. So we'll have a raffle for that. We've got a few other prizes as well. So I'll come around once you've had your Pie and Peas. Second half, don't forget your chance to ask some questions. So around about 9:30 we'll start. And if you're booking taxis or anything, I'd book them for about 10:30. Anybody wants anything signed or a quick photo of Malcolm, feel free to come up and see him. But we'll see you back on stage at 9:30. Thank you.